through 20. Jesus calls the disciples. As Jesus passed alongside the Galilee Sea, he saw two brothers, Simon and Andrew, throwing fishing nets into the sea, for they were fishermen. "Come follow me," he said, "and I'll show you how to fish for people." Right away they left their nets and followed him. After going a little farther, he saw James and John, Zebedee's sons, in their boat repairing the fishing nets. At that very moment he called them. They followed him, leaving their father Zebedee in the boat with the hired workers. The first thing I think when I read this scripture is, to remember in you guys might not, but I remember in second grade, we'd have these little stranger danger lesson things every Friday for 15 minutes. And it's kind of useless because, it wasn't useless, but it was kind of boring because they kept reteaching the same things. But I'm thinking of that guy in the van with the candy and how he's just "Oh, come here. I get candy in my car." Well, that's what I'm thinking Jesus is probably doing to them. They're grown men, so it's a little weird. But he's just "Follow me. We're going to go fish for people. Leave your job as fishermen. You're going to come fish for people with me." Hallelujah. And it just made no sense to me why they'd follow him. I don't know if they knew who Jesus was. I don't know if they hadn't experienced Jesus and they're "Oh," or if they were just "This man wants to go fish for people. I want to see what he's talking about." It's weird because it's just Andrew, Simon, John, and James, which those are 4 of the 12 disciples, which means Jesus probably did just trick them and "Okay, I took you into town for nothing." But it's weird because I know Andrew and Simon are brothers, and I know if I asked if my brother was "Hey, you see that guy over there? He wants to go fish for people." I know I wouldn't let him do that, but he probably wouldn't listen to me, but still, I wouldn't do that. Today, I'm also here to teach you about the history of the church and why we follow Jesus as a congregation. Which also brings me to good job to all you people who are here for Homecoming Sunday. Been here for a long time. I am happy that there was no homecoming football game between different decades of people. I do think we would have beat that church up there, though. I think we would have had a good chance. So what basically happened when we built this church is the Wesley group was coming through, all those people, and we decided to build a church on Hayes and Market Street, 2 streets who've been renamed, and I do not know where they were renamed and why. It could have been all the way on the other side of Council Bluffs. Could literally just be where Barley's is. I don't know. Don't ask me. So what ends up happening is we built a Sunday school a year later, and then we buy a log house for, anybody want to make a guess? It wasn't here in the first service. Anybody want to guess how much we bought that log house for? More. 35? Less. It's 25. Which is now $961 today, which, log cabins wouldn't be worth much today. But it just fascinates me how you think, $25, that's not a lot, and how much inflation actually does. Hopefully inflation doesn't stay as bad as what that looks like. It wasn't really that bad, so then we formed the Ladies' Aid Society during the Civil War as a women's rights movement type thing. We had an orchestra before a band here, an orchestra, which classical music was still something that back then. For all you people who have been here for the church for a long time, did we still have an orchestra while you guys were here, or did we move over to a band? We had the organ. I know we had I was here at the first service, which brings me to another thing. Later on, we ended up making $3,000 repair to the organ, and we just made another $10,000 repair, which is a lot of money going to the organ, just one instrument for one service.
He's talking to you, Edward, not me.
I would suggest, though, some point during the year, you should have the praise band come to the 8:30 service, and have the organ go to the 10:30 service, and switch the services around, but like switch the times around, and like see if people go to the service they usually go to, or if people want to try it out and see if something new. I do think this is like a new idea you should bring on to. Yeah, I'm talking to the ad board too. So what happened was Henry DeLong, which I'm pretty sure we all know who he is. Do I need to give a recap on him? No? Okay. The Ocean Wave Saloon, he bought that when he came back from the Civil War using $200 of his own money and $50 from an unknown pastor's name. Was it you? I don't know. So in a former hotel, it was open in a former hotel, the United States Hotel, located on Madison Street at the head of Broadway, which could be considered either right over there, there. But I think it was at this spot because it never mentioned relocation after that. So the saloon had a reputation that was known in the minefields of California. It was pretty bad. The CB Bugle, which now Daily Nonpareil, I don't know if they changed names. I don't know if the Bugle went bankrupt or something like that. But they said it was a palace of sin and hatred, which if a church is rebuilding or building a church on a ground that was known for as a palace of sin and hatred, I feel like that's a little sketchy. Don't you think? In 1861, lightning struck the building and it burned to the ground. And it lay idle for several years until he returned from a soldier and gave his savings to buy it. He said it would be always used for religious purposes. So I don't think we're moving from here anytime soon. I did confirm that with Alexis in the first sermon. He did live in Council Bluffs for the rest of his life. He organized missions to help the poor. He did kind of set up the youth group stuff. There was Faith in Motion and Student Life, that's what they're called today, but he did create 2 missions for the children in the city, one to train the older children and one to train the younger children, which if that doesn't sound like the youth group to you, I don't know what else that sounds like. Middle school, high school, and elementary. I mean, that would have been a nice invention if he invented that. We did make a $500 exterior rebuild in 1889, which might not sound like a lot, but it was like a lot in the way that people were like throwing all their money at the church to just like get a whole nother story built. It was a whole big thing, which I do think at some point we should try to repaint the... What? I'm going to make suggestions to the ad board. I'll keep doing it. Okay. Henry DeLong's portrait is actually found in the DeLong Lounge for your information, if you wanted that. In 1903, we had this guy named James O'May come to preach at our church for about 2 months, like a little temporary pastor. And then we got this new pastor, I forgot what that dude's name was, but I don't think we really liked him. Because in 1907, like we love this James O'May guy so much, we flew 5 people maybe even drove. No, probably, maybe, I don't know where the plane was then. We flew all the way out to Los Angeles, talked to the Bishop of the United States, or like the leader of the Methodist Church in the United States, persuaded them to let James O'May come back and preach at our church for 2 years. I mean, I don't know what it was, why we needed him so badly, but I think the congregation loved him. Hopefully it wasn't like, hopefully the person they replaced wasn't too bad. I bet he was kind of annoyed though when the church asked him to leave and they flew 5 people out there. I think it was probably like a little secret like spy mission, something. You can't let the pastor know, otherwise I think if Alexis was here, she probably would have like downed that in a second. She would not have let us go get a new pastor. I never said we're getting a new pastor. In 1913, the church left debt for the first time in 38 years, and we literally took our mortgage, we went up the candles, burnt it, and the whole church had like a big party. Which I don't know if any of you here are paying off mortgage, but if you, I think Alexis should have this thing, if anybody pays off their house, come put your mortgage up there in the fire, we'll get a little ashtray, and done. It was 38 years, which is a long time. Alexis did confirm also we are not in debt. Still not in debt. We might be in debt after this sermon, though. It's gonna do a lot to the public rating of the church. The exterior was done for another $1,700 in 1945. With a lot of we kind of started building the spire and getting that stuff done because all that metal that we didn't need from World War II was kind of just took away because we already built all those tanks for 5 years and stuff. So we came back, put all that stuff on the church. Which, yeah, I don't know how we went from a 25-foot by 25-foot log cabin to having a sanctuary that is bigger than that, a lounge that is bigger than that, a fellowship hall that is bigger than that, and that probably that'd probably be an eighth of our property. I see the bathrooms combined is about as big as about as that big log cabin. So yeah, if y'all want to try to fit in the bathrooms and take a service, then we'll have service. Confirmation was organized in 1951, actually after the creation of the church softball team, which was ended 2013, 2012, something around that line. This book only goes up to 2008, so it kind of took a little extra research / estimated guessing to figure out what happened there. So did any of you guys play church softball? I know some of you did. 3, 4, 5, 1, 3, good, nice. And actually, I want to know if we're doing this in 2025. In 1975, church celebrated 125th anniversary by inviting the whole community, getting this whole big place rented out, and just had a big party. We were probably we can't just have our average little block party we have there. We need to invite the praise band. We need to go to this big open. It's gonna be fun. I would like to ask you, does anybody know where Henry DeLong was born? And when? Do you know how old he was when he died here in Council Bluffs? 97, which I thought was pretty crazy. Because I was back then, wasn't it people were living 70 years and that? And I was this guy must have been so holy to God. God was you can have a little bit more time. A little more. Yeah, but yeah, he was, I really think I want to meet this guy. I would have interviewed him if he would have been here. Buying the church. Yeah, the unnamed pastor who gave $50 is the unnamed pastor friend who gave $50. I would like to know who they are, but other than that, I don't really have many questions about the church. In 1960, we had our peak population at about 1,425 people. Was anybody here at the church in 1960? Okay. Well, was the church really hopping back then? Well, I mean, I'd still say it's hopping now. Although I did think you guys were going to beat out the first service in, like, people. I think the first service beat them. I am. Well, I feel like I should be done here. Just remember, following Jesus, God. That's why we come to church. No idea.